Hello again, you're with UTV Live tonight. Now we bring you the second part of our series about Linfield Football Club, and we begin by turning the clock back to 1998. Neil Britton reports.
Crowd trouble on the streets outside Solitude after the Irish Cup final in 1970 between Ballymena United and Linfield meant the Blues were banned from playing here by the police. But 28 years later, Linfield were back, and in anyone's language, they received quite a welcome.
And it was marvellous whenever the police did allow that game to take place. I remember it very well. It was a 12 o'clock kick-off. Linfield were restricted to 300 tickets. The Cliftonville supporters gave them a great welcome back, and we've now been back here for 11 years.
Obviously, there was a long time where we couldn't go back, and that wasn't even so much to do with Linfield and Cliftonville. It was to do with the situation in our country. It seemed to be covered globally, and there was a lot of hype, a lot of tension. Supporters were being bussed in. Everybody was trying to be in their best behaviour, and in many ways the football almost became a sideshow. It was about the day itself. But it was fantastic to return to Solitude.
We got a real warm welcome that day from Cliftonville fans, and when we still come, we don't get as warm a welcome now because we're beating them regularly. But it's football rivalry, and that's what it should be. And I think that we all need to work to make sure that we take any sectarianism out. And Linfield and Cliftonville have worked to stop that. And I think that we're at the right stage now in the development of Irish League football.
Another sad chapter in the history of Irish football was written here at Oriel Park in August 1979. Linfield were drawn against Dundalk in the European Cup. The game was played against a backdrop of some of the worst violence of the Troubles.
Well, it came at a bad time where Lord Mountbatten was murdered, and there was the Warren Point situation where a lot of soldiers were killed as well. So there was a lot of tension about the place at the time. We could sense that there was going to be problems at the game. I remember looking across to the far stand and I saw certain supporters of our side and supporters of the Dundalk side trying to climb onto the roof of the stand and create problems. And all of a sudden these guards flew out of the tunnel and just ran onto the field and just straight across to where the problems were happening.
I was hit by a brick and we scored the goal, but my family were down, my father and my brothers, and it was frightening to know that they were in the crowd when all the crowd trouble was going on, and it was a frightening period, to be honest, to live in Northern Ireland.
Linfield were heavily punished for the crowd trouble after what became known as the Battle of Dundalk, but shortly afterwards the two clubs forged a cross-border community link.
Out of all of that came the Dunfield project. People probably would have thought it would never have happened given that infamous night. And our own youngsters went down to Dundalk. We had Dundalk youngsters up here, and there was a real bond between the clubs. And it really was a tremendous way. And when you talk about something positive coming out of something negative, Dunfield was that.
Linfield did have Catholics in their squad over the years, but the club's playing staff was exclusively Protestant during the Northern Ireland Troubles, which began in 1969. But all that was to change in 1992 when the Blues signed a high-profile Catholic in the shape of Desi Gorman, ironically a former Dundalk player. And he was joined at Windsor Park 2 years later by a Catholic from Dublin, Pat Fenlon, now manager of Bohemians. How difficult a decision was it for you as a player to move to Windsor Park?
From a football perspective, it wasn't difficult at all. I mean, it was a massive club, and I remember going to watch Shamrock Rovers in Linfield down here, and obviously the history of the club is well known. And from a football perspective, I knew that we'd be going there challenging for trophies and in a good team, so that didn't bother me. Obviously, the religion thing was what people spoke about at the time, and wasn't a major factor neither. I'm sort of thick-skinned enough to be able to deal with any criticism I would have got, but in fairness I got more criticism down here in relation to religion than I did playing for Linfield. Most people in the south don't understand the northern situation, in fairness, whether it be a Catholic side or a Protestant side, and you have to take that on board. The supporters of Linfield were brought up on that all their lives, and and that's what they followed the club, and that was their background. you know, and I had to learn about that fairly quickly as well. And I wanted to learn about it because, you know, you're coming from the south, you're saying you're going up to this show, but it wasn't like that. It was exactly, they were exactly the same. That was the one thing I found amazing about playing in the north, that they were no different. The club has moved on massively, and I think the board at the time when I was there had to take a lot of credit for that, because they seen it had to go that way. It was the Stone Age stuff of years ago had to change, and they did, and they continued to do that. And I know presently there's a lot of Catholics playing for Linfield, and that's a good thing.
And one of those Catholic players, Conor Hagan, says that there's been plenty of banter both off and on the pitch since he joined the Blues from Cliftonville.
First couple of games when I arrived, I got a warm welcome from the Windsor crowd, and to be fair, I got a bit of stick from my mum and dad and my uncles, but they've given the most of the games this season, and they're probably one of Linfield's #1 fans at the minute, so they're really enjoying it, and I'm really enjoying my time here at Windsor. Monday and Tuesday is really serious, and when we're finishing on a Thursday, we do play like we give 5 sides, sort of Greens against Blues or Catholics against Protestants.
When I played for Linfield, you know, last season, the season before, there was always plenty of Catholics playing the team. You know, we had a bit of crack, bit of banter, slagged each other off, and different parades were happening and stuff. And then sometimes in training, you know, we played the prods against the Catholics, you know, just for a bit of banter to see what way who came out and top and stuff. You know, but there's never any malice in it, and everyone always got on very well together, and we all enjoyed each other's company.
And who are the better players, the prods or the Catholics?
Oh, definitely the prods.
Tomorrow night, in the final part of our series, we'll find out how a member of Linfield's coaching staff who was born in the loyalist heartland of Sandy Road became involved with the GAA. Neil Britton, UTV Live Tonight.
Glenn Ferguson's comments brought a smile to all of us here in the studio now.